The computer. Welcome, everybody, and happy 2025. It's your year to thrive. So, I was listening to a podcast the other day from Mel Robbins. No relation to Tony Robbins. Mel Robbins is a woman who has her own international podcast. She's got a lot of great information, but she had this really great session on how to look at last year, 2024, and questions to ask yourself before you start making goals for the new year. And I thought it was very reflective because often we go, okay, well, we as women, and I'm not saying you did this, but we as women tend to focus on, well, what did I not do right? And I could have done more of this and I should have done more of that. And we kind of rake ourselves over the coals a little bit. And then we say, well, this year's going to be better because I'm just going to do more. Well, sometimes doing more is not the answer to getting better results, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to go over some of these questions and I would love it. You're welcome to type in the chat, those of you who are jumping on here and listening. But if you want to make this year your best year ever, then I suggest you go through these 7 questions. So question number 1 is, what were the highlights of your life in the last year? Now, what's a highlight to you might be not a highlight to someone else, but it could be something you've never done before or a milestone. And the best way to do this is to take your phone and go into your photos and scroll all the way back to January of 2024 and see, what did I do in January of 2024? What are there pictures of? Did I go to an anniversary dinner? Did I go to a friend's Super Bowl party? Did I, whatever, right? You're looking at what did you do and what were some of the highlights? And then go to February and then go to March. Now, what's interesting is if you don't have very many pictures, you might say to yourself, I didn't do very much social stuff last year. I need to do more of that. Or maybe you had no pictures of friends. It was all of sunsets or birds or your dog or whatever, and not any pictures of girlfriends. And like that might be your wake up to say, maybe I need to be doing more stuff with girlfriends. Okay. So question 1 is, what were the highlights of your life in the last year? Now, relating to your Mary Kay business, I would say, what were your highlights of your life? Just like the question says, Mary Kay highlights, personal growth highlights. Maybe you had your first $1,000 week, your first $500 day, whatever. Okay. Question 2, what were the hardest parts of your year for you? What were the hardest parts of your year for you? Okay. And the hardest parts could be anything that maybe you start, maybe something that you've never done before, maybe I don't know, just whatever was hard for you. Maybe you did your very first party on your own. Maybe um your office wasn't organized, so you got organized. Whatever was the hardest part for you. And maybe warm chatter is not your forte or something that you love to do. So maybe you started warm chattering and that was hard for you. So just look at what were the things that you felt were hard. And again, that's very subjective because what's hard for you may be easy for someone else and vice versa. Stuff that comes easy to you might be hard. So, what were your hardest parts of your year? Number 3, what did you learn about yourself this year? Now, that in 2024, I think that is probably one of the best questions to ask. What did you learn about yourself? Did you learn that you're a little more resilient than you thought? Did you learn that you had better bounce back ability than you thought? Did you learn that maybe you take no's personally? Like somebody, a friend of yours said no to holding a party and you kind of took it personally and you got a little bent out of shape? Or maybe you learned that you're stronger than you think? I don't know. So, what did you learn about yourself in 2024? All right, question 4, what are you going to stop doing in 2025? Some examples that might be, maybe you just felt like, and I was thinking this, I was thinking, if I volunteer for one more chamber thing, somehow I get sucked into every committee, every fundraiser, every crab feed, every ribbon cutting, and that's fine. But when you get Volunteer of the Year award from the chamber, that is an honor, but it's also like maybe a wake up call to like, am I really here that much? Yes. And so what I have to stop doing is saying, an hour taken from an hour given to the chambers, an hour I take away from something else. It could be my workout, it could be sleep, it could be just downtime. And I'm not saying don't get involved in the community service stuff at all. That's not what I'm saying. But what are you going to stop doing? Maybe you haven't managed your time as well. Maybe you haven't managed your money as well. Maybe you did all facials. And this year it's like, you know what? I'm done with facials, or at least I don't want to do everything one on one. I want to do more parties. Or maybe you didn't manage your money. Like you'd have a great party and then you'd go shopping and your money would disappear. So, whatever it is, what are you going to stop doing this year that you did in 2024? Maybe one of those things is procrastinating. I don't know. All right. Number 5, what are you going to start doing? So one of the things that I really, really want to get back, and I'm always looking for running partners. So if anyone's interested, type in the chat if you're interested in being a running partner. I'm doing an hour of booking the first part of the day. And so what I love doing is I love either having a director or a consultant also committing to that, whether we jump on Zoom, mute ourselves, and we're making phone calls and we like wave at each other when we get one. I got one, I got one. But I'm really dedicating an hour a day to personally booking and my personal business. So like today, I coach my hostess for Sunday. I coach my other hostess for Friday morning, just saying, hey, I heard from three of your friends. Is anyone else coming? She said, no, we're good. And I said, did you get the catalog I sent you? She said, I did. And I said, well, I can't wait to see you guys. So that only took like 5 minutes, but that is part of my power hour, making sure that my personal bookings are solid. And then I'm, of course, doing the same thing with team building. So number 5 was, what are you going to start doing? So for me, that's one of the things I'm going to start doing. The other thing I got away from that I used to be so good at is I used to be really good at writing down 3 things I was grateful for before I went to bed. It's like a gratitude journal. And it might be, I'm grateful for the weather. I'm grateful that I have inventory. So when customers, like the lady who called me today, I have everything she wanted. Whatever it is that you're grateful for. So that's another thing you can add. So what is the one thing what are some of the things you're going to start doing? Number 6, what are you going to continue doing this next year? So maybe it's something you did in 2024, maybe even in 2023, and you want to keep it going. For me, it's working out. I want to make sure that I go from my pajamas to my workout clothes, because if I just get dressed, I'm not going to work out. That's just me. So I go from my pajamas to my workout clothes. And I'm committed to working out 30 minutes a day, 6 days a week. Doesn't matter if it's on a bike, it could be sit-ups, it could be, don't worry, I don't do a half hour of sit-ups. I wish I could do a whole half hour of sit-ups, but something, okay? So you have to ask yourself, what are you going to continue doing this next year? Something that you did before. Number 7, this is the last question. What can you do today? And this is really key. So write this question down. What can you do today to take that first step? Now that you have a set of directions, is there one thing on this list that you can start doing today? And so let's say you really want to have a stronger personal business, or maybe you've been in Mary Kay a while and you're like, you know what? I want to do the court of sales. I know it's mid-year and I know I'm not on track, but there's a lot of people who join Mary Kay, 3 or 4 or 5 months into the year, and they do the sales court brand new. So maybe it's your year to go, you know what? I did maybe 18,000 last year. 40 seems like a long way away, but crunch the numbers with your director. It may not be as far away as you think. So what could you do today? What's that first step? Because it's that first step that's going to build your confidence, give you that momentum, and it's going to have a huge, huge, huge impact on you. All right. So now that you have a great self-awareness of what you've been doing, what you want to be doing, and what you're going to stop doing, you can see what brought you joy and what brought you the greatest lessons. All of these things help you create the greatest life for you. And especially when you go through your photos, you'll notice there'll be a photo that reminds you of something that brings you joy. And you're like, oh, I went to go visit my daughter. That was so cool. I so miss her. Or maybe it was like, wow, I forgot I went to that anniversary party with my best friends who celebrated their 20th wedding anniversary. Or my best friend had her birthday party. We went out for drinks. So just notice when you look at those pictures, which pictures make you feel empowered or happy or make you smile? And which pictures are you kind of thinking, maybe I shouldn't have taken that picture. And again, if you don't have a lot of pictures of you doing things or being around people, then maybe that's something you need to have a little aha and say, wow, I really didn't spend as much time with people as I thought I did. And maybe I need to surround myself with more positive people, not just people. We want to be very careful of who we expose our energy to. Okay. So those are the 7 questions that Mel Robbins went over. And I find them to be really reflective. Now, what's interesting is if you can grab a girlfriend, could be a colleague in Mary Kay, could be, somebody who obviously knows you, and you go over these lists and you both answer them together and share ideas. There's things that the other person might be socially aware of that you might have missed. Or she might even say, well, I remember you were really excited when you did this one event, but I also remember you got really, really frustrated in July when you were doing this. And it might make you go, oh, I forgot about that. Remember, every time we do something, it either empowers us or it makes us sometimes push through something. Like sometimes when we go to do something, our confidence level is already a 9. I can do this, a 9 or a 10. I can do this, I got this down. And then there's other times where we set a goal where our confidence level is not a 9. Maybe it's a 6.5 or a 7. Excuse me. And that's when it's important to ask yourself, what do I need to do to shift my confidence higher? And if you've ever studied anything like a comfort zone, I'm going to show you my phone as an example. Let's just say this is your comfort zone. So in the center is the center of your comfort zone. So any goal within this area is not really much of a stretch. Like, let's say you've been a star consultant 30 times, and I'd say, so Sonia, how are you feeling about your star? You're like, oh, I got star consultant down. So for her to set the goal of star consultant is right within here, right? Because she's done it before. She's been a star a bunch of times. But if I said, well, what about sales court? Now you're talking that we're right up here with her toes against the edge of her comfort zone. And so what I will tell you is every time you set a goal that's outside this box or just right on the edge, it expands the box. So if she does, let's say, the princess court, 20,000 that she's never done before, it's going to literally move the top of this box up a little bit and make the box bigger. And then the next quarter, she does even more and it moves the box bigger. So what that does is every time you're stretching your comfort zone, it also builds your confidence and it has a ripple effect on every area of your business. And so what I would suggest is that in answering those questions is you reach out to your director and you say, okay, here's my list. These are my highlights. And the highlights to your director may not be as relevant, although I know she's going to want to know what your highlights were, but she's really going to want to know, so what are you going to stop doing that you did in 2024? What are you not going to pull into this year? It could be a healthy habit. It could be an unhealthy habit. It could be a time factor. It could be something that maybe you did and you kind of want to get out of that commitment. What did you not do last year that you're going to start doing? And that could be making a new priority of your health, your wealth, your business. Maybe it's just like, you know what, this year I'm going to hand out 5 cards a day. Doesn't matter whether they take the card, whether I get a name and number, I'm just going to learn to talk to people and hand out 5 cards a day. Well, I will tell you the first couple times you do it, you're probably going to be nervous. You're like, well, I don't want to seem weird and I don't want to seem pushy and she's going to think I'm crazy. And you're in line at Target and this really sharp lady's in the line next to you. And you have this entire conversation with yourself. And then you hand her a sample. And all of a sudden she's like, gosh, you look familiar. And you're like, well, I live on such and such. She goes, that's the same street I live on. And maybe your neighbors. And had you not said anything, you would have never known that. So it's always interesting. What are you going to start doing? What are you going to stop doing? What were some of your greatest achievements? What was something that was hard for you? So those are all great reflective questions. So now once you have all that, I'm just going to wrap this up in 1 minute. Once you have this like minutia of answers, now you can go forward and say, okay, so before you figure out what your next step is, you got to figure out where you want to go because the next step is going to move you toward something, but you've got to know where you want to go. You don't go into your car when the GPS button and it says, where do you want to go? Say, I don't know. I just want to go somewhere. Trust me, directions will not pull up on your screen. It's going to say, well, I need a destination. So without a destination, it can't tell you how to get there. Well, goal setting is the same way. So here's what happens to a lot of us is we set a goal that's big, but a goal that we know that we can do. So the first time I did the court of sales, I was scared. I had never sold that much. I don't think I'd maybe been a star consultant 1 quarter. I had gone to seminar. I had 3 people on my team, but I think only 1 was actually breathing. I think the other 2 kind of just joined and disappeared. And I had never been consistent. I was pretty new. And when I made that goal for sales court and I broke down how much it was, I almost wanted to throw up because I was like, I can't do that much. I can't order. I think it was back then like $1,300 a month. And I thought, there's no way I can do that. But then I sat down with my director, Janice, and we broke it down with a 10% progression. So every month I did a little more and a little more and a little more because my clientele base would grow a little more each month. Well, the number for September, October didn't look so bad. The number for May and June was like, what, $2,800? Are you kidding? I mean, this is back in the day, you guys, when the skincare set was like $49. So that to me was crazy, but I didn't look at May and June. I just said, okay, this month I need to do this much. I can do that. And I just broke it down because I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. And I knew if I could do that, that I could walk away from my corporate job and do Mary Kay full time. So when you're thinking about your goals for 2025, think about what would you dream about if you could close your eyes, because we're going to talk a little bit about dreaming tonight. Because often we don't talk about dreaming. We talk about what's your goal and where are your finances. And What I will tell you, and in corporate America, they don't do this very much, is what if you could close your eyes and you could actually dream? What would you dream about? Is it a vacation home? Is it surprising your significant other with an all expense paid cruise that you've already paid for before you get on the boat? Is it, I don't know, is it a car? What is it if you could dream and tell me what that feels like? What is it that you're dreaming about? And then take that dream, and this is where your director comes into play. Your director is a strategist. You may not know that, but she is great at strategy. And if you know where you want to go, and what's really important is to know why you want to go there. So I'll just use an example really quick because we're going to wrap things up. I have 1 minute. If you are somebody who, let's say, wants a surprise, let's say it's your 20th wedding anniversary, and you want to surprise your significant other with a cruise, and let's say you want to go on a cruise to Alaska. First thing you got to find out is how much is it? Doesn't matter. I would just go on Royal Caribbean or Princess Cruise Line or whatever and just put in a week-long cruise leaving San Francisco or however long it is, and just get a number. Get a number for so that you know how much you need. And then call your director and say, okay, my goal is I want to spend October on a Alaska cruise. And then your director will help you break it down so you can know by the month what you need to do, by the week, and by the day. And once you break it down, you can do anything you want. And that's going to motivate you, believe it or not. But let's say you want to do that because let's say for the last several years, your significant other has surprised you with a trip. Maybe you're a stay-at-home mom and you're thinking, I want to have the money to surprise him with a trip. And so once you have your anchored why, you hold on to that. And if it brings tears, they always say if a why doesn't make you cry, it's not the right why. You want to have your why so strong. And your director can help you with that too, just by asking questions. But I will tell you guys, if you can harness your why and figure out what it is you want to do in 2025 that you didn't do in 2024, you literally can have absolute abundance in every area of your life. You will thrive in 2025 financially, emotionally, in your business, and in everything. So I hope this has been helpful to you guys. Feel free to text me and ask me any questions, and I hope you have a blessed day.